Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Ikenna, and today's episode is very special. I'm joined by the lovely Camilla. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing really well. And today, yeah, we're going to be talking about how we learn the languages that we learn. So, Camilla, let's just introduce yourself a bit. What languages have you learned? And yeah, give us a little bit of your background / your story.
Okay, I studied healthcare technology and I've always been interested in learning languages.
Okay.
I grew up bilingual, speaking both Turkish and Dutch because I was born and raised in the Netherlands, but I have Turkish parents.
Alright.
I learned English in school and I learned Spanish because since I was 16 I've been listening to Spanish music. Cito. You know that.
Yeah, of course.
I started with reggaeton because it sounds really good, but later I discovered that the lyrics are not really good, but I keep listening to various types of Spanish songs, and I also like the culture. And after Spanish I learned French, German. Bonjour. Comment ça va?
Ah, ça va bien. Okay. So French, German,
and then I learned Greek for 1 month, but I forgot everything because I'm not practicing it anymore.
Yeah.
And now, recently, I started with a challenge where I challenged myself to learn a language within 2 weeks next to my full-time job.
Nice.
Yeah.
Full-time job as well. Okay.
Yeah, just to see how much I can learn, and I'm sharing my progress with other people, just to show how much you can learn with limited time.
Yeah. So in terms of the languages that you say that you speak, maybe at an intermediate level, which ones would you, or higher, which ones would you say that those are? So English, Turkish, what, Spanish maybe? And which other ones?
4 languages: English, Dutch, Turkish, and Spanish.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Nice.
And in German, I haven't practiced a lot my German, but I can still understand it.
So you can understand, you'd be able to bring it back if you wanted to, if you practiced a lot. Okay.
Exactly.
Very
and with French it depends because these days I'm not practicing it anymore, but I notice when I'm just writing something in French or when I'm trying to force myself to speak for 30 minutes approximately in French, I can automatically think in French.
Yeah. I find the same thing. It's a very interesting how your brain it needs like anything, like when in the winter when it's very cold outside, especially where I'm from in New York, where you have to warm up the car a little bit, you know, you have to just warm it up just so you don't hit the engine right away. So it's the same thing with your brain. It's just you gotta warm it up a little bit, give it 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then the switch happens, and when it does, it's almost like magical. But it's really cool. So let's talk about like the first thing that you kind of do when it comes to learning a new language. So for example, you know, you got a new language that you want to learn. What is that typical routine, a typical like thing that you do first in order to get into the language?
There are several things that I'm doing, but I'm not doing everything in the correct order in every language that I'm learning. But what I find extremely important is recording the level I'm in when I start, because when I see how much I can learn, I mean, for example, with my Portuguese, I started out with 1 sentence that I could say. Yeah. And then after 2 weeks of learning, I looked back at what I could say and what I could say after those 2 weeks. And I was so motivated to continue. And that's just one thing I do, recording my progress. Next to that, I'm also focusing on the pronunciation. I'm watching a lot of YouTube videos.
Love it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Exactly, because you got exposed to the way people are speaking, and also
at a natural rate, and how they actually okay, I got that.
Yeah, and you also understand the culture a little bit, because
definitely.
You see what kind of jokes people are making and what kind of topics they are talking about.
Yeah, and it's real world, because the great thing about YouTubers as well, it's real. These are people like real, you know, it's not like a 1940s drama about history and something they're using weird vocab. No, this is the actual words and slang and vernacular that they'd be using, just because in let's say if it's a French YouTuber, it's what they say in France, you know, in France. So I find that the same thing is very useful for me. It's like I have to start off by consuming content, whether that be usually media, whether that be YouTube. I'm really big on TV shows and movies, just because it's similar to YouTube. It exposes you to the native rate of speech and pronunciation right from the get-go. But also there's another big thing, it's like when you're watching, sometimes with YouTube, but especially with like TV shows that are very dramatic, if you see like a mother, you know, if a mother loses her son in her arms and she starts crying and she says like no, 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 you're never gonna forget the word how to say no.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if someone's going don't shoot, arrête, arrête in French, it's just it's the way babies learn. It's like you associate these big grand gestures with like, you know, it's just how humans learn. So I find it very useful. But
yeah, me too.
That's really cool. So let's say you're more at like for your Spanish, for example, when you got to more of like an intermediate level, what were some of the intermediate / advanced? What were some of the more like the materials that you use, or the things that you would use? Would you use a certain kind of textbook? Would you start talking to people a lot? Would you like work with a tutor? Like, how does it work once you get to that intermediate stage for you?
When I was learning Spanish,
yeah.
I used grammar books because I found the grammar extremely hard. But what I'm doing these days, when I'm learning a new language, I try to find resources to read, for example, about the topics that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I try to watch videos on topics that I really like.
So what would be an example of a topic that you really like? Like, let's say in Spanish that you'd be interested in.
For example, I had a period that I was really interested in watching TED Talks, so I tried to watch TED Talks in Spanish. Yeah, there's a channel on that.
Yes, that's a great idea actually. That's a really good, because I know that they dub it or they at least they subtitle in like so many different things, and there's probably a lot of Spanish TED Talks as well, which is actually very interesting because think about all that information that you've never really consumed before because it isn't in your language. Because I've watched a lot of English TED Talks, but I've never watched a Japanese TED. I've never watched a Spanish one, so that's actually a really good point. A really good point. Because
if you just Google TED in and you can and the language that you are learning, you can find so many channels. So that's a really good tip.
I would think about that. Yeah, because it's like you're learning cool stuff, but you're also learning, and you're learning the vocabulary around it, but you're also learning, the language, which is really interesting.
And sometimes there are topics you already know something about, so if you are watching the video, you think, oh, that's what they call, for example, particular thing in Spanish or Japanese.
Do you ever use like flashcards or one of these like spaced repetition kind of things?
No, I find that's extremely boring.
My God, that's. I mean,
I learn better when I'm in a conversation with people.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it depends on your maybe intuition level. Sometimes there's a lot of people more structured. They like it. Just tell me, the ABC. But it's also harder because for a lot of people that use Duolingo or just like a lot of Anki or a lot of these flashcard programs, it's hard to learn something. If you use it for sentences, maybe that's alright, but it's hard to learn a language just from the vocabulary by itself. Like for example, in Chinese, if you try to do that, that's even Chinese, Japanese, it's very, very hard. Yeah. Especially even Russian as well, because there's so much different grammar you have to, because it's like one word can have, even in English, one word can have a lot of different meanings depending on how you say it, depending on what other words are surrounding it, It's like I can say that guy over there, or I can say that guy over there, or I can say that guy, because it's like there's so many different ways to emphasize it that can kind of shift the meaning or the intention. So,
but I start from day one just texting native speakers. I use HelloTalk. I mean, I do use Duolingo to learn the basic vocabulary.
Yeah, just like supplement it though.
Yeah, but then I just start at day one with practicing.
Yeah. That's perfect.
I just try to text, even if I have to use a translator. As long as I'm writing down sentences, I can just remember what I have to say in some situations.
When I started doing, especially for me, when I get to intermediate level, like maybe intermediate advanced, but I call that probably by the time I start to be able to understand TV shows without subtitles. One of the coolest things is to go on italki or to go on like a pen pal website and find someone to talk to, and then whether that's texting or actually talking with them, and then having Google Translate open. So like, and it helps that they don't speak English that well, so you're forced to have to do it, and then it's like you don't know how to say that. You translate it, you know how to say it. You forget, you translate it again, and it sticks with you.
And the coolest thing is, those people are really patient with you.
Yeah,
they're just waiting.
They are, I felt some guilty times because I used to talk to a Russian pen pal and a Japanese pen pal, And these guys, like, they're trying to learn English, but they'll just speak with me Japanese. They'll speak with me Russian the whole time, like 90% of the time Russian, and then 10%. And it's like, I'm supposed to be helping you out too, but I don't know. I mean, it's cool, and I think it just goes back to, you know, people are very, very humbled when you try to learn the language, because everyone is trying to learn English, but when you try to learn a language that isn't English, it's very, people are humbled because they're not really used to it. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right, so we kind of went through the different methods, and I think we covered a lot of really informative stuff. I don't want to make this longer than it has to be, so the last thing I will ask is, what is a very cool experience that you had personally as a result of knowing a language that you would not have had if you didn't, you know, put in the work to learn the language?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in my case it's finding a boyfriend from another country. Yeah. Because I would never imagine that I would have a Peruvian boyfriend.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So I mean, how did Spanish help you connect with him, or did it like, was it a bit more like you learned Spanish because of him, or how did that exactly work?
Well, I started learning Spanish when I was 16, so I met him when I was 20, something like that. Yeah, so I knew him because I knew Spanish, so we automatically started talking, and I said, "Oh, where are you from?" And he said, "I'm from Peru." And I said, "Oh, tú sabes español, ¿tú me puedes ayudar?" And he said, "Sí, estoy aprendiendo inglés." So he said, I'm learning English, so you can help me. And then, yeah, that's the way how we connected to each other. And
of course,
yeah, as we were speaking, we discovered that we are so different, but it's so interesting to be different, to be from
different places, and there's a natural attraction there, definitely, because it's like a mystery, kind of, you know? Yeah,
but at the same time, we also discovered that we also have a lot of things in common, so
yeah.
It was a really crazy experience.
That's cool. I mean, you almost can't really get better than that in terms of learning a language, because usually, I mean, your significant other will probably be, you know, the most significant or one of the most important people in your life, and to find that, you know, only because you're able to speak that language is ridiculous. Like, I've had similar experiences with girls that speak Russian, for example, and it's like when you're able to connect with a person and they're lying down next to you only because of the fact that, you know, you put in the work to learn the language, it's like you feel, I mean, like in your case maybe like a queen, but in my case like a king. It's like, I learned this, like I would not be here, you know, she would not be here if I didn't, you know, put in 8 months or 9 months learning it. And honestly, you know, we talk a lot about motivations, different motivations for learning a language. That's a huge one. And I always tell people, like, if you are learning a language and you're single, okay, you shouldn't maybe pick a partner based on the language you're trying to learn, but it does help, because if you have someone that you should spend so much time with and they speak 1 or 2 of the languages that you're trying to learn or that you already know, it just makes everything easier, and it just helps. I mean, it's the coolest thing. You get a deeper connection level. You know, Nelson Mandela once said, it's a very popular quote, but like, if you talk to a person in their second language, you're talking to their brain. If you talk to them in their first language, you're talking to their heart. And it reigns true. It's really cool. You connect with them. They open up more. You understand the little nuances and all that stuff. So really cool. But yeah. So just lastly, would you have any final tips or programs that you would like to talk about, and also tell us what you're trying to get out there, what your plans are, if you want to promote anything. It's your time to shine.
I think the best way, it's just my personal opinion, if you just record your progress, if you just record yourself at least once a day for 1 minute, you will see your progress, and it will motivate you a lot.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to talk about? Maybe you have a YouTube channel, right? Or
yes.
Okay, well, let them know.
It's called Kamila Tekin.
Okay. And I'll link it down below, by the way.
Yeah. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue with my challenge of learning a language within 2 weeks with several languages. At the moment I'm doing that with Arabic, and there are some other languages that I learned in 2 weeks too, just, yeah, if you want to follow my progress, you can just take out my channel.
Definitely do it. Like I said before, I'll leave a link down below. And also in the annotation that's about to pop up, you will see it as well. But yeah, thank you so much for being on and sharing your information. And I really hope that you guys will support Camilla in all of her endeavors and check out her channel and subscribe as well. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment if yeah, some of this information in this episode helped you. If there's something that you didn't know before and now you know and you're like, wow, thank you, just leave a comment. It's always nice to see that people made it to the end. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Take care and have a great day or night, depending on where you are. So,
yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.